Redditors who have hired a private investigator. What did you discover? The US government hired one for my security clearance. They found nothing. I told them about a juvenile felony I had. And they said they didn't find any records on it. Gave me a bit of hope that the government can't actually see everything, lol. I am not a Piper SE. But as a freelance journalist I have been hired now and then for private investigations. Roughly 80% of the people who either paid me or wanted to pay me for investigations turned out to be either crazy or were otherwise normal people who had fixated on some person and situation in an irrational and unhealthy way. I now avoid that type of work and stick with other forms of non-fiction writing and research. How do you deal with people who are obviously crazy and just trying to find information to harm someone? Pi in turn here. The guy I work under literally just tells them why an investigation would be harmful / ridiculous / not worth anyone's time or money. Here's the TLDR version. Grandma was sleeping with her daughter-in-law, but hired me to determine whether or not her son was sexually abusing her step-granddaughter. He wasn't though. They were just engaged in a consenting affair. So everybody is cheating on everybody in this redneck disaster. I still got paid though. I've never hired one. But I worked as AP. For a while. I have seen everything from people cheating on their spouses to stalkers to runaways. One of the most tangled messes I was hired for was a grandma who hired me to determine whether her 21-year-old step-granddaughter was being sexually abused by her stepfather. Stepfather is grandma's biological son. That's the only task I was given. Turns out the stepfather was not forcing her. She was willingly sleeping him and had been engaged in an affair with him for almost 2 years. To make things even more complicated, Grandma was a lesbian and sleeping with stepfather's grandma's son wife and was trying to gain information to convince stepfather's wife to leave him for Grandma. The true motive came out after I confronted Grandma for not being forthcoming because Grandma paid a special visit literally minutes after step-granddaughter and stepfather drove away from stepfather's house to wait for Grandma's lover. I need a chart, bro. Grandma was banging her son's wife while her son was banging his wife's daughter. I worked under a Pi as an intern for a while. Sometimes we would use a fake wanted fugitive poster to knock on people's doors and ask if they've seen the person in the area. We would use this tactic just to see who would answer the door, how the house looked, if anyone else lived in the house, etc. The amount of people who volunteer such information to complete strangers is nuts. Yes, we had badges and identification, but most people would never ask to see it in the first place. Good to know. An affair that my wife had been lying to me about for a year. I got incredibly damning photos that I texted to both of them just after calling my wife on the phone and having her lie to me once more. Was her name Seattle by chance? No, she changed her name to Oklahoma City. Pain. Nowhere is safe for Supersonics fans. Had one used against me, thanks current father-in-law. He found out that I was seriously a desperately boring person. Aside from my boring work and education history. He learned of 2 of my exes and the fact that they were pretty boring too, though one sadly struggled with an eating disorder. I don't think he knew what yet. Yak played World of Warcraft with his last EX. A lot meant. But yet, he learned I was adopted and had grown up with a very nice pair of parents, non-bio. Obviously. You know. Until this second. I assumed he had wasted his money. And ended up with literally no interesting info. I'm kinda curious if the guy found out about my bio parents. And wonder if that colored his view of me. So did you guys ever talk about it? We sure did. After my wife and I had a wonderful trip to Disneyland, where I proposed to her by the castle. though not at the beeping wishing well. Because I'm an idiot and didn't know there was one. We sat on the back porch and he slung some of my history at me. Including stuff about my ex that my wife didn't know at the time. Wow. It was wow. I didn't lead the relationship with my non-gamer wife with a discussion of wow. It was definitely awkward. And a little violating. But mostly left me feeling a little low that you know. Yeesh. I'm kinda boring. He likes me today at least. He likes me today at least. That's what you think. Hire a pie on him just to double check. So not me. But my father. My parents have been divorced for over 10 years and are still fighting over the house and inheritance. As well as furniture and much more. We found out that he hired a private investigator who spied on the entire family. We are 4 people. Without counting my father. We do not know who the pie is. So it's possible that this person is still spying on us. We also have no clue if the pie has only spied on my mother. But on me and my other family members. But one thing is certain. My father knows everything. We have him blocked on all social media accounts. He can only communicate via phone calls and WhatsApp. But he knows what we are doing. He even knows when we go on vacation. You guys left the house for 2 weeks and went to the beach. Don't lie to me. I know. I swear to you. If you are being followed by a pie, assume that they can see you take a SHT inside your own house. It's disturbing. There comes a point where that's just stalking. Have you spoken to a lawyer about the stalking by proxy? Or taking a speep with the blinds closed? At least close the door. And stop streaming it on Facebook Live. Not me. A friend of mine in US got a pie hired against him. It was his mother-in-law who hired the pie. The mill hated his guts and my friend isn't from US. He's working in Silicon Valley as a software engineer and trying to get his US residence through his American wife. Even after 2 kids. The mill was still insisting to get him deported. She caused all kinds of trouble. Even though her daughter asked her many times to stop it or she will never talk to her again. Every time she promises she will. But then they figure there's a new police chase after him. The mill plotted all kinds of speep. Drug possession. Gun possession. Kidnapping of his own kids. Living in US illegally, he's legal. And finally belonging to a terrorist group. The pie was hired to dig some dirt. Anything that can be useful. My friend is pretty boring. The only speep you would find against him is his speepty code. The only speep you would find against him is his speepty code. LOL nesting? What's that? Copy and paste from a story I posted on a thread about co-workers who imploded. I didn't hire the pie but did help my company hire one. Years ago when I was working at a small engineering firm, we fired a soil technician after a week. Well, kind of. When he came in for his first day he was wearing slacks, button-up shirt, and a tie, which was odd because soil techs spend most of their time in the field on site. Usually pre-foundation, so lots of mud and dirt. Plus most of your job involves digging test pits and or taking soil density readings, important later, which guarantees you're going to be filthy at the end of the day. Standard dress is Carhartt's. Steel toe boots. And one with the company logo is you're feeling fancy. Couple people who worked with him those first days immediately commented that there was just something off with him but couldn't put a finger on it, so we invited him to come grab a beer with us after work one day to see what was up. We sit down and after a pitcher he starts up about he can only have 4 or 5 beers because he had to go pick up his girlfriend's kid from school in an hour. Because his girlfriend is doing a 2-month stint in county for getting caught with a large quantity of crystal. Then he starts ranting about how annoyed he was that the kid had to stay with him instead of grandma because grandma's house was where they usually cooked and he couldn't smoke crystal when the kid was around. Then he asks us if we wanted to buy any and he could get us a great deal on bulk meth. Like this came out within 15 minutes of us sitting down with a pitcher of beer. My other co-workers and I all are looking at each going, what in the actual beep? LOL, we weren't prudes. Half of us smoke reefer but F. We killed that pitcher in 5 minutes flat and all pieced out immediately while he went to grab another. He must have had enough synapses firing to realize he had perhaps shared too much information because he didn't show up for work the next day. Didn't call in sick. Give notice. Missing in action. Normally that's just a dick move to the others who have to cover your hours, but this beeping went home with a company truck, laptop, and cell phone. And a very sensitive piece of equipment. I stated earlier that one of the things soils techs do is measure soil density on sites. This was done with a Troxler nuclear densimeter. Yes, it's radioactive. You have to register this device with US nuclear regulatory agencies. People who use them wear a card that measures how much you've been exposed to, which gets sent out to said agencies quarterly for testing. You have to log where the device goes, and if you lose one, your engineering firm is fucked. Oh, and they are expensive. Like 6 figures expensive. And this dude just decided to roll home with his. 2 days go by and our president and principal engineers are losing their speep because they are going to have call the feds to report it missing, which will start an investigation that will likely shut us down. One of the engineers half-jokingly suggested we hire a private investigator to see if we could track him down, and our president immediately tasked me with this. This was the late 90s, so I actually looked someone up in the mother peeping yellow pages, LOL. The pie shows up at our business and starts asking us questions. Looking at his hiring paperwork, we checked his home address. It was his mom's, and she basically told us to tell him to beep off if we find him, and then getting an inventory of the items he stole. The second he saw the phone and carrier, he got excited. We were using the latest and greatest Blackberries of the time, and apparently that iteration had a GPS chip. He logged into a special page dedicated to Leo's. No idea how he had access, punched in the phone an IMEI number, and I'll be damned if it didn't pull up a location not too far from us. He then asked if we wanted to call the police, but we said no thank you. Paid him, and 3 of us drove to the area and started looking for the truck. Took us 10 minutes to find it parked in the driveway of some trap house. Complete with a big neon yellow lockbox covered in danger and radiation symbols. We knock on the door, which was already open, and walk to find this beeping guy sitting down, playing some PlayStation with a couple friends with a smoking bong in the middle of them. Weirdly enough, the dude was wearing slacks, button-up shirt and tie like he did at work. Anyways, he sees us just staring at him speechless and just says, "Oh hey. That wasn't working out, so I was going to call in and quit. When do you want me to drop my gear off?" 3 of us look at each other trying find the words, but the engineer who came with us said, "Just give me the keys to the truck, you asshole." Barely looks up from the TV and tosses them over. Not proud of it, but I kicked that beeping glass bong on the way out and watched it smash against the wall. I know. Dude, you never break a bong, but I needed to do something for my satisfaction. He worked there for 5 days total. I just wanted you know that I read this comment in its entirety and appreciate the fact that you took the time to write it. It's a shame this wasn't posted sooner, because it's one of the more interesting stories I've read.
Hey guys, if you like this video, then smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more contents like this. And don't forget to press that bell icon to get notified for future videos. Thanks for watching. Click here to see more videos.